And then I also want to give you grace as we move forward. So this might overwhelm you because it might not be anything you've heard before, or maybe you've heard it before and it is the biggest hurdle that you have to overcome in your life in terms of changing your health and changing the direction of it. And we're here to cheer you on. And if you hit the mark 15 out of the next 30 days in changing your nutrition, that's better than the last month. And I will cheer you on. But I am absolutely going to push you to being 110% with everything that you do, because that's how you get the best results. So where I'm going to start is the rules to follow, and these are the golden rules. We had a disagreement about this morning because I said there's one golden rule, and he said, no, they're golden rules. You changed it. You changed it.
It says rules to follow, not golden rules.
Rules to follow. Okay, well, I'm going to back it up before we do rules to follow. The golden rule is eat real food. And I used to have a slide that was a golden apple, because an apple is real, but a golden apple is not real. If you stick to that foundation of eating real food, when you pick up the piece of food to put it in your mouth, because that's how you eat it, and you look at it and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, this was once alive and it is real food. Because I've never seen a Twizzlers tree, I've never seen an Oreo bush, I've never seen some of the modified foods growing out in our environments. And God made food for us. He made fruit, He made vegetables, He made animals for us to eat. And if it's as close to being alive as possible, it's going to have the most nutrients, and the density of nutrients that get into our body is what's going to provide us with healthy cells and healthy tissues. Okay, so if you can't read it, don't eat it. Same thing, if you pick it up and it has the label on it, first of all, if it doesn't have a label on it, it's closer to being real food, because you don't label your apples all that often, and you don't label your carrots before you put them in you. But if you can't read it or don't understand what that word is, you don't need to be putting it into your body. Make sense? All on the same page? If God created it for us to eat, absolutely it's there. And don't tell me that God made Twizzlers or Twix or whatever it is. He did not. Man made that. The devil destroyed it, distorted it, whatever he does, and it is not healthful for your body. And if man altered it, don't eat it. Eat local, non-organic, or non-GMO and organic. And if you want to write this down, when you're grocery shopping, this is really simple. You want to be label reading, and you want to be cognizant, and you want to be vigilant of what you're putting into your grocery basket and what you're taking home with you. Local has a number 4 on it if you're looking at produce, and if you're looking at produce or fruits and vegetables. And organic has the number 9 when it starts. These are the CPU numbers that the grocer types into the screen in order to charge you for it, or it's the scan bar. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. If it's an 8, it means it's genetically modified. Absolutely no crazy 8s that should be in your basket. Super important to avoid them. Here's why, and this will help you remember. We genetically modified these actual fruits and vegetables so that it would make the stomachs of insects explode. So when they eat it, the stomach of the insect explodes and the insect dies, and therefore the insects don't want to attack that crop. And that crop can flourish and grow, and they can make a huge crop and sell it to the grocery store, farmer's market, wherever they're selling. Great, essentially, for the farmers or the food producers. However, what do you think happens when you eat that apple, eat that tomato, eat that pepper that was genetically modified? You're a larger person than an insect, so the best way that I can describe it is you have a minor explosion in your digestive system, and it actually leads to what's called leaky gut. So it creates openings in your GI tract lining, and things can get in and can get out, and it causes a leaky gut syndrome, which creates food allergies, autoimmune, stress responses, eczema. All sorts of issues have stemmed from leaky gut, and you don't want that. Quality versus quantity is absolutely important. So a Twinkie and a handful of almonds have the same amount of calories in it, and we have been driven into calorie counting society, and that's how we're going to lose weight. But the quality of the actual nutrients going into your body is way more important than the calorie count of it. Of course, if you're eating a super exuberant 5,000 calorie diet, we would want to rein and reel that in as well. But when we're looking at quality of what's going into your body versus quantity. And if you start to focus on that, you'll get full faster, and you won't crave the sugars and the sweets later. And you won't crave all of these other things because you're not nutrient deficient. Eat real food. Oh, you did put the golden rule. You just put it on the second slide, not the next one.
Here is the golden rule.
Here's the golden rule. This is a writer downer. Pull up your pen, pull out your pencils, write this down. Eat real food. There you go. Okay, so here are the 4 main nutritional changes that we're going to discuss today in moving forward and helping build health within your body. Clean up your carbs, fix your fats, perfect your protein, and trash the toxins. So first thing that I want to talk about, absolutely, we're going to talk about sugar. Sugar is one of the most addictive things on the planet. In fact, they took MRIs of a person taking cocaine and a person taking lots of sugar, and they found that both of those substances activate the pleasure center in your brain at the same capacity. So you get the same high from sugar that you do from cocaine. I've never done cocaine, so I don't know the comparison, but you could imagine if you've eaten sugar what that feels like. So sugar is not just a bad thing to eat, but it's called an anti-nutrient. So it'll sit on receptors and prevent actually the neurotransmitters from working and activating your spine, your nervous system, but also things in your gut. And it pulls away from your body to absorb the other nutrients that would be circulating within your body. So not only does it not have nutrition in it, it is an anti-nutrient, pulls things out of your body. Sugar makes you fat, absolutely. Increases your risk for disease. It feeds cancer. So when they go to try to detect cancer, when they're concerned that they have cancer, do you know what they feed them and then they do a scan? Glucose, which is sugar water. And so they follow where that sugar went and boom, that's where the cancer is because it's eating so much sugar. So if you just pull sugar out of your diet, you're going to change the trajectory of your life and your epigenetics. Your lifestyle turns on or off your genes in the direction that you're actually going to go. Sugar is as addictive as cocaine. Sugar burner versus fat burner. I would say this is not a stat that I have written down or I can give you research for, but I'd say 80% of us are probably sugar burners, meaning that we fuel our body off of sugar and not off of fat. Meaning when you don't have any more sugar in your body, you crave it so that you put more sugar in it so you can keep going. And we just keep going up and down, up and down, up and down like that throughout our days. Then we crash, go to sleep, and do it again the next day. But if you're a fat burner, using fat for fuel, whether it's good fats from what you're eating or you have some extra fat in your body is going to those storages, this is just a straight line of energy that you have throughout the day and you don't go up and down and crash. The recommended dose of sugar for females and males. So your vegetables and your fruits actually do have carbohydrates or sugar in them, and you're going to be ingesting them. They're a different type of sugar, and your body breaks them down differently and utilizes them differently. So you do actually take some sugar on when you're eating the nutrition plans that we teach you. And then write this down. For females, the recommended dose is 20 grams of sugar a day. For males, it's 24 grams of sugar a day. Yes, Nick gives an amen. We get a little bit more. Let me put this in perspective. In one banana, there is, depending on the size of it, 10 to 12 grams of sugar. So if you eat a banana for breakfast, boom, you're done for the day.
Yeah, I too had 2 bananas.
You had 2 bananas today. Oh dear.
No, you're done
Yesterday. So there are sugar and things that we eat that have other good nutrients in it, and I would actually prefer fructose, which comes from fruit, sugar versus your table sugar and other sugars. And then I'm going to show you a slide. Sugar is hidden in all of our packaged and processed foods. Why? Because it's super addictive, and if you're addicted to their food, you're going to buy what of it? More of it. They're so smart in the food industry. On average, this is all the way back from, I want to say 2012. So on average, an individual in the US eats 130 pounds of sugar in a year. Back in the 1920s, a family of 5 would eat about 5 pounds of sugar in a year. A family of 5. This is one person in 1 year. I used to weigh 130 pounds. Now I don't because I had a baby. But just imagine eating a full me in sugar a year. And that's a lot of sugar, right? Can you see why we have more heart disease, why we have more cancer, why we have more obesity? I just saw a picture the other day on Instagram. It was on the beach in the 1920s, what we looked like, and on the beach now. And we have this body image, be happy with yourself, and we're making it okay, which I absolutely want you to be happy with yourself and on the journey, but it's not okay to be obese. It's not healthy. Let's not give that image. I don't want you to be real thin. I don't want you to be on a starvation diet. I don't want you to have problems with your relationship with food. But what I want you to do is to know what healthy truly does look like. And that's important. And eating 130 pounds of sugar is not what God made you to do. And there we go. Sugar's hidden in most things that you have. That's why label reading and being cognizant and vigilant of everything you put in your mouth is super important. This is just one of 56 names for sugar, and the expansion has gone to 72. So I need to update this, but it's in things that you don't even realize. Anything that ends in OSE actually is sugar. So right here we've got fructose, maltose, dextrose. All of those are sugar, but then you've got barley malt, you've got castor sugar, you've got lactose, you've got honey is actually sugar, turbinado sugar. There's so many of these that are actually sugar that you need to be cognizant of where they're coming from and working on getting down to the 20 grams or 24 grams of sugar a day. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is ditch the grains. So grains biblically used to actually be very nutrient dense. They used to have a ton of B vitamins, which feed the Krebs cycle, which feed energy for you, which is where runners or competitive athletes got this carb loading pattern or their concept. That's the right word. However, what we've done is processed grains all the way down so that all you're doing is eating sugar or chemicals when you eat them. In the United States, there is no healthy grains. There's no organic grains. We have destroyed our crops. They just came out with an article that said 100% of non-organic grains have glycophosphate in them. Glycophosphate's a chemical. Dr. Kyle will talk about it later, but it also causes leaky gut. It causes neurodegenerative diseases. My dad has Parkinson's disease, and that is one of the chemical reactants that pushes Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's, dementia, and all of those. So being aware of where glycophosphates come from and avoiding them, and they're in our grains. So grains also destroy our GI tract. They're the cause of leaky gut. So what I was talking about with the GMOs from genetically modified organisms that create vegetables and fruits, it's also within our grains. So they create that gapping in the digestive lining, which means some of your poop comes out to the rest of your body, and then your body creates an immune response to it because they're like, whoa, this is not supposed to be in this area. And then your body starts attacking and creating the food allergies. How many of you have done a food allergy test? Likely, if you had any allergies show up on your test, anything above 6, that there's gapping in your digestive system wall, and it's a leaky gut condition that's happening there. And we want to help close the gut wall and lining so that your body can actually absorb the nutrients and not create that immune response that's happening. Overeating grains can lead to insulin sensitivity and diabetes. If you take grains out, actually my uncle, he was diagnosed pre-diabetic, and he is not a believer in 90% of what I teach, but somebody at his work told him that if he went on the carnivore diet and eating just meat, that he would fix his pre-diabetes, and it actually works. It does. It didn't fix his leaky gut, but it took off the bombardment of grains on his pancreas and on his digestive system and reversed those numbers, and he lost 45 pounds from just eating the carnivore diet.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What if you go overseas?
Overseas, the grains are healthier. In Europe, when I lived there for 6 months, I would eat the bread and I would eat some of those things, and they are full of the B vitamins and the nutrients. I can't give you exacts of which countries where, and I don't know as much of the history of them. But yes, overseas it is safer. Good fats versus bad fats. So every cell wall in your body Every cell in your body has a cell wall, and that is made of a phospholipid bilayer, which means a double fat layer. And you need good fats in order for every cell to work. So you have heart cells, you have digestive cells, you have brain cells. All of those cells need to be able to work as long as they're getting information from the nervous system to make them function. Well, the cell walls can either be good or they can be bad. They can be congested or they can be fluid. So a healthy cell wall, oxygen can get in, water can get in, nutrients get in. Same as you need oxygen, water, and nutrients in order to survive. Every cell needs that as well. And when the cell wall is healthy, these can get in and then the poop can get out. If it's congested, it's just like when you have sinus congestion, you can't breathe very well, the cells can't breathe very well. Or if you're constipated, it can't poop very well, it can't get the toxins out very well. All of these fats create a congested cell wall. And a congested sick cell that reproduces is actually a cancerous cell that's reproducing. A cell wall that can work without oxygen, a cell that can work without oxygen is actually a cancer cell. They're anaerobic in nature. And so if the cell wall is congested, can't breathe, can't poop, it's going to reproduce another cell that can't breathe and can't poop, which is a cancer cell. If you want to write down these oils that you want to avoid: canola, soybean, peanut oil, processed meat, sunflower oil, cottonseed, margarine, hydrogenated oils. You want to avoid those as much as possible. This list could go on longer. And start to use healthier oils. So for cooking, we use coconut oil and avocado oil in our house. Things like salmon, wild caught fish is important. Ghee, olive oil, flax oil, macadamia nut, walnut, almond oil, eggs with yolk, as long as you're not allergic to them, or duck eggs if you have them, are all going to be good fats that are going to fuel your system and make your cells so that they're not congested. Everybody on the same page as me? We want to be eating, sleeping, pooping, and getting oxygen. Along those lines, you want to be getting lots of really good protein, which also provides good fat for you. So whatever the animal eats is what you're eating. It's a law of bioaccumulation. So traditionally, yes, no, this is not a joke. This is not a joke. Okay, so after Halloween, guess where all of that candy goes that they don't sell on the shelves? It goes to the farms, to the cows. They feed the animals all the leftover processed grains, anything with sugar, anything that will fatten them up to produce a large animal that they can slaughter and send to the market. Which is why you need to know where your meats are coming from and why it's so important. On the same lines, I didn't talk about this and I missed this, sugar suppresses your immune system. So did you ever notice when you're kids, or when you were kids, you went to a birthday party, you ate all the cake and all the sugary things, the piñata, the candy, all the stuff, and then everybody had a cough, cold, a flu or something. They're like, oh, who was at the party that gave everybody the flu on Saturday? And I'm like, no, it was the cake, the candy, and all the sugary drinks that you gave them.
Get ramped up with the school year.
Yes, and all the birthday parties start at the beginning of the school year because there's more kids in the kindergarten that are older because they're trying to get their kids to get better grades. Different tangent. Anyways, sugar suppresses your immune system. So sugar also suppresses the cow's immune system. So what do they feed the cows? Antibiotics, and lots more antibiotics, because they get sick too and they think that's the answer for correcting their sickness. And then on top of it, they want to fatten those cows up as fast as possible. So what would somebody take in order to make them bigger muscles and fatter faster? Steroids. So they give them steroids and they give them anything that beefs them up. Now, what are you eating if the cow eats junk food, steroids, and antibiotics? Straight into your body. So you should never eat any conventional meats here in the United States. Our meats are actually illegal in a lot of other countries because they are so bad.
Where do we find good quality meat?
So they need to be they need to say grass-fed and finished if it's beef, grass-fed and finished, because oftentimes farmers will also, instead of feeding them grass all the way through, they'll fatten them up at the end, so they give them a little bit of sugar and corn and just make them really big at the end. So grass-fed and finished are going to be the best. Know your farmers. So there's farmers markets and there's local farmers that you can talk to and ask them about their processes. They don't always do organic in terms of your beef. grass-fed and finished is super important. Then you can ask them if there's any pesticides on any of their grass and what they're exposed to. But the organic label is hard, believe it or not, harder to get in the US. They can't live within 7 miles of anybody else that's doing pesticides. So say you have a farm and then somebody moves in down the road and they spray pesticides on their farm, because that can go up in the air and be on your farm. You can't claim. And then they have to pay for that label as well. So knowing where they're coming from and being able to get those answers on that. Also, when it comes to your chicken, you want them to be free range, meaning that they can roam around. Has anybody drove to the beach here in North Carolina and you see the actual chicken? There's no windows on them. Did you notice that? And you don't ever see the chickens because they live in an environment with no light, no nothing. They feed them anything to fatten them up really quick, and they lay on top of each other, eat each other's feces, all of this thing until they can slaughter them. I don't know the lifespan of the chicken.
No, but
it's like 6 months or something.
You'll notice it's called KFC now instead of Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Because it's not actually chicken.
And genetically modified to have 4 legs
Yes.
instead of 2.
Yes. So you want to make sure that you're getting free-range eggs, free-range chickens, then they're able to walk around and they're able to be an animal like they were designed to be. It'll absolutely taste different. It's absolutely an investment. If you're going to invest in one thing in terms of changing your nutrition, in terms of your money, because it can be costly, but it's more costly to be out of work because you're sick and pay for antibiotics if that's the route you want to go. I mean, it's whichever side of the coin that you want to do. But your meats would be the most important. And then clean your produce. So you want to be absolutely sure that when you buy the produce that you take off anything that they were exposed through along the process of getting to the store. Yes.
Because they're organically grown.
Yes.
I mean, they're not sprayed afterwards.
Yes, so in Whole Foods, a lot of their fruit and vegetable comes from Mexico. Their organic restrictions are a little bit different, but also what they do is they pick the fruit before it's absolutely ripe. So green bananas, or it's not quite ripe, because it takes time in order for it to get to the store, and then they put it in a truck or in a cargo ship, however it gets to us, and they expose it to certain chemicals to ripen it up. And to prevent bugs from breaking this.
Put that in a bowl with some strawberries, and you can see the little bugs coming out of it.
Yes. So if you want to clean your produce, you can use white vinegar, and you want to make sure that your water is filtered too, and rinsing it off before you're eating it, and then you'll be sure that you can get as much nutrients as possible.
Put produce in bowl.
I didn't make this.
I was studying the GI chart.
Eventually it's gonna get there.
Whatever we need to do.
That's where it's going.
Make sure you have clean.
Eventually, that's right.
Was he talking about coffee enemas? No.
He was just out of himself.
I couldn't even help it.
Yes. Okay, I guess we've got to eat and drink this and not that. So they have told you that water is not good enough on the sidelines, or when your kid's sick, give them Pedialyte or Gatorade because that's going to restore the electrolytes. They're right in thinking we have to restore the electrolytes. They're wrong in thinking that Gatorade's a good choice for that because it's full of toxic chemicals that are actually going to suppress the electrical activity of the nervous system. So your go-to in those terms are going to be sea salt in your water. That's great electrolytes. Or you've got coconut water, or we promote different electrolyte balanced waters in the office. And then looking for iced teas, or when you want a drink, something to drink, flipping it over and look to see what those ingredients are. Know exactly what it is and exactly what you're putting in your body. I'm a fan of just drinking water. If you can get water in, you shouldn't be thirsty for all the other things. Some people disagree, but there are other options out there. If you're a soda drinker, I had a patient and he would drink a case of Pepsi every single day. He was not overly obese that I noticed at all, but he told me this when we sat down on day one. He was drinking 12 cans of Pepsi. Regular Pepsi, the sugar-filled Pepsi, the carbonated, gross Pepsi every single day, the one that they clean blood off the streets with because it's so acidic. Or I poured over my battery in my my Infinity because it was corroding and it took the corrosion off. 12 of those a day. He had a lot of joint pain. surprisingly enough, and he came in. Anyways, the only thing I did is had him stop drinking his Pepsi. He lost 25 pounds within the first month. He didn't change anything else, just stopped drinking Pepsi, and his pain went away completely. But there are other options if you feel addicted to soda and you don't feel like you can make that clean sweep and just cut it out and drink water instead. There's things like Zevia. They don't have the sugar in it. They don't have the other chemicals in it. I'm still not a super fan of Zevia, but it is an option because I do think it creates that the blood sugar spike, even though it has stevia in it. It also has a strange taste to it. Some people like shakes in the morning, and everybody is like, oh, I'm doing so good. I've been taking these Beachbody shakes, or I've been taking these Weight Watcher shakes, or Boost, or whatever it is, their shakes. Again, you need to look at the label and see what's in it. Bone broth is actually really gut healing. It helps close those gaps in the walls and lining of your digestive system. When it comes in a protein, it's not as close to the original form. So you actually would do better if you just made bone broth and drank it, but you can get it from a shake if you need to. That is all that I was going to talk about.